All right, what are we doing here? If you don't know core gaming, you're officially living under a rock. Wait, hold on. Let me get the esports views. All right. If you don't know core gaming, you're officially living under a rock. This is probably the premier, the #1 content producer in the game. Gerald is the brainchild, the head of Core Gaming. Super cool dude. His videos are ridiculous, and they reach such a wide audience of people within and outside of the FGC. Just go through and watch some of the analysis videos. They're ridiculous. You'll learn so much about fighting games, and the production is ridiculous as well. So new vid analysis, why Rollback Netcode is better.
In fighting games, performing the Daigo parry or certain combos requires precise timing.
So when do we try this parry?
Now imagine how hard it would be to play a song you practiced if your guitar did this.
Oh god.
The note comes out.
That felt terrible.
This is what it's like to play fighting games online with delay-based netcode. If everyone could play offline together, lag wouldn't be a problem, but we live in a world where arcades die and viruses live, so net play matters a lot.
This video was pretty sad. This arcade owner was pouring out his drink for the arcade that was shutting down. This was a very famous, I believe, Korean arcade. You know, I really feel like we missed an era. I missed the Street Fighter 4 era of arcades in Japan and Korea, and I'll always miss that. Always regret that I never got a chance to go to Japan and sit down in an arcade and inhale all the cigarette smoke from the 30 other dudes in business suits puffing away at cigarettes and beating my ass in Street Fighter 4.
To clearly show what happens with incorrect predictions, let's just say there's a huge 500 millisecond delay with your opponent. If your opponent is walking forward, your side will correctly predict their position because there's only one direction to predict: forward. But if they suddenly do something different like jump, your side will still think they're walking because it didn't get the memo yet. But the moment your side receives the news that your opponent jumped 500 milliseconds ago, it will instantly roll them back to your opponent's correct position, which is in midair at this point. Hence, rollback netcode.
And then you get
Remember,
dunked on.
Sometimes huge lag spikes can go unnoticed if all the predictions are correct in that time.
That's something I never really considered was when, I mean, I could feel it and I know that's how it works, just like intuitively, but I never considered that when lag spikes happen and the predictions are correct, it's not going to show any lag. Makes sense, but normally as a player, you kind of just assume that there's nothing wrong with the connection in those moments. Never really considered it that way. You know, not only does it correct mistakes, but it can also hide hiccups by already guessing correctly the first time.
Developing the game with rollback netcode in mind will minimize these glitchy moments, but weirdness will happen regardless if network delay is too large and the game has to roll back to things that happened too far in the past.
Okay, I'm going to show you an ancient Brian F. moment. Ancient history.
Did he do a demon flip? What the fuck did he just do? I'm seriously, did I have a stroke? Can somebody clip that?
He went straight up and then rolled forward.
Did he do a demon flip?
I was so unprepared for that. I mean, the moment he went up, my brain just registered it as a normal jump, and then suddenly he just rolls forward. So my brain had to roll back. See, not only is the netcode having to roll back the situation to realize it predicted a neutral jump, but actually it was a jump forward, my brain had to roll back the information because my brain said, oh, he's neutral jumping. I don't have to anti-air anymore. And then suddenly I get the conflicting information of he's jumping forward, and my brain had to roll back the situation, and it didn't roll back in time. But I mean, nothing compares to this.
Happened too far in the past.
This one is next level.
What the fuck was that?
Rollback netcode is usually combined with delay netcode to strike a balance between glitchiness and lag. But there is one more potential problem called rift. Let's say your opponent's console overheats and it slows down their game during an online match. This means their inputs will get to you really late, causing massive rollback glitches on your side, while your inputs will get to them.
That's Regalitarian? You know, he used fucking Rugal footage of Regalitarian. He's kind of a special
Let's say
case.
your opponent's console overheats.
He's from South Florida.
Their game during an online match. This means their inputs will get to you really late, causing massive rollback glitches on your side, while your inputs will get to them ahead of schedule, making their side play perfectly. This results in one-sided rollback. The netcode must correct the rift to make sure both players have a fair fight.
Wait, was there rollback netcode in Street Fighter V? I'm not sure if that's a joke or not. Street Fighter V is rollback netcode, and that's what he was demonstrating with that sequence of the PS4 overheating and setting out the package slower and causing one-sided rollback. So Street Fighter V has the problem where it does not correct the rift, which is what he was mentioning. I call that desync usually, for one-sided rollback is what you call it. GGPO implementation corrects for all these things. Street Fighter V and I think even MVCI and basically every non-Western developed game that attempts to use rollback is not using GGPO. They're trying to do their own out-of-the-box solution. So Street Fighter V has rollback, which is why I still say Street Fighter V, even though it has too many scenarios where it runs like shit and is terrible, on average is still better than Street Fighter IV. Unfortunately, too many players left in the dust, and it's very inconsistent, and it doesn't have the sync correction, whatever you want to call it, to make sure that when the rift happens and one console slowing down, the other one is at the same speed, it doesn't bring them back into sync into a common amount of delay with each other and what frame there are in the game, which causes one-sided rollback. That's the thing that those fan-made patches were addressing. Altimore, who released that PC patch for the netcode, addressed that issue of the one-sided rollback, and it was a smoother experience for everybody. So Street Fighter V is like so close to being right, but there's a common cultural thing here of Japanese devs wanting to develop in-house solutions and not wanting to license out a Western product, or maybe they don't know how to use it, or there's other reasons, other red tape they don't want to use it. I don't really know. But everyone's like, this is a solved thing. Just use GGPO. Just use it. It's free. Just use it.
I've had excellent games in Punch Planet playing from Korea to California because it uses GGPO, the rollback netcode for fighting games invented by Tony Cannon. He's even made it free to use under the MIT license, and the technology is used in many games all over.
Oh, I forgot about this one. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Online Edition uses GGPO.
Rollback technology is used in AAA fighting games as well, and even Melee has rollback now. If you like fighting games and hate lag, please share this video.
So that's why Rollback Netcode is better from Core A Gaming. Please support Gerald. Please subscribe to the channel. Go like it. Go comments. Go watch the original video. This video is touching on the technology, but doesn't get into the history of Street Fighter V. I mean, it's not a Street Fighter V channel, right? But it doesn't get into the history of Street Fighter V with Rollback Netcode and why there's so many issues and why the East, Japan and Korean developers, why haven't they really embraced rollback netcode? Like when we were at the fighting game roundtable, everyone was so disappointed because no one mentioned rollback. No one mentioned about netcode improvements beyond like just small little mentions here and there. The dev board basically mentioned netcode improvements and said yes, but they're very expensive to do, and kind of shrugged it off, which was fucking ridiculous because we're here in the West dying for netcode improvements. So yeah, I don't know. It's a really big cultural difference between what the FGC in the West is primarily focused on versus what the Eastern developers and Japanese developers, Korean developers are working on. Very different priorities, and we're basically complaining that we can't play your games. This is just the technology overview, but the cultural issues that we're having is very, very interesting. It's a cultural problem. I don't understand how it's not a priority. But at that round table with all the fighting game developers, the only one to talk about rollback, really, Harada mentioned it, but Harada keeps saying this number 3, which makes no sense. I have no clue what he's talking about. I don't want to be wrong and say he has no idea what he's talking about either, but I'm going to say that I have no idea what Harada is talking about. But the dude who develops Flexel Fighting EX Layer, they just released a beta, I believe, or I'm not sure if it's out yet, but he implemented rollback. I'm not sure if it was GGPO, but that developer just went into the conference, and when it was his turn, you know, this is like the smallest game at that round table. It was the big boys from Capcom, Harada there for Tekken, SNK, Arxis. You know, it's a very small game, not a big household name, even within the FGC. And he's like, yeah, it's working great in our testing. And I think they're going to a beta. It's like, it took some work, but it works great. It's out, it's rollback, and they're implementing crossplay too. Yeah, and it's out. And he just did it. He took his game and he just made it happen in a 3D fighting game. So yeah, GGPO is definitely like a solved solution to improve netcode, but for some reason, just we can't get developers for most major fighting games from Japan to implement them. The ones in the West, Mortal Kombat, you know, NRS games, and other indie games all have it and work fine, work better than the big boys. Really weird, and I don't understand why it's still a problem in 2020. This is a 2D fighting game, isn't it 3D? I thought it was 3D. Why do they run across the screen? I seriously thought this was a 3D fighting game because all the stages are you have a diagonal point of view. Like sometimes you get to the wall at different weird angles, don't you? Dude, I seriously thought this whole time that Fighting EX Slayer was a 3D fighting game. Anyways, hats off to them. Okay. I'd like see Jack and Fexel. How do people say that? Fexel? Probably not gonna play it. But never say never.